Hey y'all, I'm Randi White, and this is I'm Running with Randi White. Every week, we're taking a real, raw, and refreshingly honest look at what it's like to run for Congress in Maryland's 1st District. From kitchen tables to campaign trails, I'm bringing you with me every step of the way. This is our campaign. We're bringing empathy back to D.C. by rebuilding our community in Maryland 1. And to get on board, make sure you follow us at all our socials at Randi for MD. Remember, that's Randi with an I, and Randi for MD.com. Let's get into it for this week's episode. Hey, welcome back. I'm Running with Randi White is the show, and I'm Randi White, and I'm running for Congress in Maryland's 1st District. I'm a Democratic candidate, and this is where I talk directly with you. No filter, no formalities, just real conversations about what's going on in our communities here in Maryland 1 and what I believe we can do better to rebuild our community together. Now, if you're new here, welcome. If you've been following along, you know we soft launched this campaign with a promise to listen before leading, and we've been doing just that softly. We're just getting started on our mission to bring empathy back to DC and legislation by rebuilding our community here in Maryland 1. Now, before we jump into this week's issues, I gotta show my gratitude. I want to thank every single person who's tuned in, shared an episode, followed our journey, or made a donation, contribution, whatever you want to call it. Your energy keeps this moving. Your energy keeps me going. This is all of us for all of us, and I truly, truly mean that. So let's get into it. All right, so we're going to kick off episode 3 the way we ended episode 2. We're going to talk about immigration and empathy. So last week we talked about Pastor Daniel Fuentes Espinal of Easton and his detention by ICE. He's currently in Louisiana. And a quick overview of who he is. He's been here in the United States for 24 years, has a background from Honduras, and has been a volunteer pastor at Iglesia del Nazareno Jesus te Ama in Easton. And it's a church known for doing what churches and Christians and just good citizens, period, regardless of religion, should be doing. You know, being kind, offering community, and offering food, shelter, and clothing to those in need. What a concept. On July 21st, he was driving to work and trying to enjoy a breakfast from McDonald's when he got detained. Pastor Espinal had no criminal record. His crime was that he happened to be Honduran, and in someone's viewpoint, in my opinion, he was first sent to Salisbury, then to Baltimore, and is now in Wynn Correctional Center in Winfield, Louisiana, where he is... Honestly, no one knows how it's going down right now, and I can't honestly say that I know that it's good because we can't trust them, right? In fact, his congregation of about 80 at the church, they're not even holding services anymore for fear. And that's what this administration, this regime wants, is fear and chaos constantly. The Maryland delegation in Congress is working for his release, except who else? Andy Harris. Ugh. His spokesperson released a statement to say, and I quote, "Congressman Harris believes due process within the immigration enforcement system is important and that facts should be clear before taking any further comment." End quote. Ugh, Andy. Media training time for everyone. And as a reminder, I'm a 20-year vet of all things media, from being a talent in radio and TV to being a marketing professional. I know what I'm talking about and 100% qualified to break down any statement written by any director of communications, delivered by a press secretary or spokesperson. Are you ready for me to break this down? All right, let's go. So the director of communications wrote this statement to be flimsy, but to appear to be strong on what he considers both sides. Again, all about who's Republican, who's Democrat, and not necessarily about the community in front of him. He doesn't see the community that is, was, and what it could be here in Maryland 1. He sees us as either one side or another, to pit against each other, to cause chaos and fear and confusion. He doesn't even bother talking to us at all. He refuses to be around, and if he happens to see one of us near him, he runs. His communications staff is on top of all the news that he should maybe kind of sort of possibly address, and they do it for him. Not because it's just the right thing to do. I mean, this is your constituent, Andy, but because he doesn't want to risk losing his job next year. And I'm here to tell you, spoiler alert, you're about to lose your job. Pastor Espinal's detention is a topic they determined he should address, but he doesn't address it directly because he has a ton of money to just let his staff do it. They know his position, whatever position he's told to be in by Big Daddy. That's right. And Big Daddy says that they want to get rid of all immigrants from Latin American descent first. So Andy is sticking with that. One thing his staff didn't bank on, though, the people of Easton grew to the people of Talbot County, to essentially everyone in Maryland 1, and now the state of Maryland supporting Pastor Espinal. And the idea of having empathy for Pastor Espinal isn't a party thing. This is everyone. They definitely didn't bank on people rushing to help that GoFundMe to cover legal fees. It's currently, at the time of this recording, $47,000 of $50,000 goal. So Andy couldn't put out a statement in full, strong support of his Big Daddy because internal polling and research are showing we in Maryland 1 are tired of him being him. But at the same time, Andy cannot go against Big Daddy because he may not get his allowance. So they came up with what they thought was a strong enough statement that no one could see through or no one could break down for his constituency in Maryland 1. But guess what? They didn't count on me doing the breakdown for us loudly. Congressman Harris believes in due process. Due process wouldn't be picking up someone who isn't doing anything wrong and sending them to multiple facilities without a date in court. Due process wouldn't be just disappearing someone without a warrant. Quote, facts should be clear before making any further statement. Andy Harris is such a weirdo. So they made that quote, that statement, because he doesn't want to do anything at all, period. He doesn't want this job to actually help or work for the people of Maryland 1. He wants to line his pockets, y'all. We're asking too much of him to actually go to bat for someone who pays his salary. He doesn't want to make a statement to piss off constituents, but he really doesn't want to piss off Big Daddy. So he's telling Maryland 1 here that, quote, I'll wait here and see which way the wind blows, but it's Big Daddy over everything. Sorry, not sorry. Can't tell you that's a direct quote or not. You figure it out. Andy, come on now. You have the facts. No criminal record, just disappeared and sent to another random facility. He was kidnapped by your friends for no reason. You know what I'm starting to think? Even though Andy Harris has been in office for 16 years almost, I don't think he actually knows how the immigration system works. And the more I think about it, few of us really do. That's why there's so much use of the phrase, quote, illegal immigrants, and so much misinformation surrounding all of these detentions. It's all super dehumanizing for one, and actually completely inaccurate for two. People cannot be illegal. Actions can be illegal, but people cannot. And this is why you hear people saying undocumented immigrants. Even then, it's more accurate, but it's not completely accurate. Can I break this down for you? All right, cool. You don't have to identify yourself here. It's totally okay, because I think that a lot of people don't fully understand, and it's okay if you didn't know, right? What matters is what you do when presented with new information. But do you know how and why people overstay visas? You know how people say you could just do it the right way? That's an intense oversimplification of the immigration process. But I got a way for you to kind of understand where I'm coming from. As a citizen, you know how frustrating it can be to do anything at the MVA, right? Have you ever tried to change over anything like a tag or a title, only to realize you don't have like all you need, even though you looked it up prior? You may have even called the MVA and gotten an answer, and then you get there and it's completely different. Have you ever just walked out and said, screw it, I'll just handle it another day? Yeah? Okay, so strap in really quick. Hold on to that analogy that I just gave you, that situation. It's lesson time. How do people immigrate to the US? There are several pathways that are deemed legal, right? Family-based immigration. US citizens or permanent residents can sponsor relatives. Employment-based visas. Workers with specific skills or sponsorship. Refugee asylum status for those fleeing persecution, a diversity lottery, a limited annual visa lottery for individuals from underrepresented countries, and finally, student and visitor visas, temporary stays that can be overstayed, which is how many become undocumented. So how do people become undocumented? One, visa overstay. About 40% of undocumented immigrants entered legally but overstayed a visa. Denied asylum. Some were denied legal protections but cannot safely return home. Remember, we just talked about coming over because of fear of persecution from their home country. And if you deny it here, once they're already here, because you can't apply until you get here, you can't go back home because you will be persecuted. And then no pathway available. Our immigration law is outdated and extremely limited. There's often no line to get in, quote unquote. So when people talk about do it the right way, it's not really a right way. It's just a hot bureaucratic ass mess, you know? It's like renewing your license online, but you keep getting sent through a click-through loop all day and finally get to process your payment and you get the message, "We're sorry, we're now going through scheduled maintenance." And the insane part of all of this, the part that you may not know, is that while these folks may be undocumented, they're still getting taxed and paying taxes. When people are telling you they're, quote, illegal and yada yada, they're paying more into our systems that they can't take the slightest advantage of. Yes, undocumented immigrants are documented in other ways and are still not granted citizenship. And if you didn't know this, you're about to find out 3 things your TV, your congressman, your favorite influencers, and your president don't want you to know. Buckle up. Many file taxes using an ITIN. That's an individual taxpayer identification number. Undocumented workers also pay billions in federal, state, and local taxes. They also contribute to Social Security without ever being eligible to collect benefits. So you may be saying, "Oh, I don't know, it doesn't really matter to me." Well, it should, because immigrants, including the undocumented, are part of the workforce here in Maryland 1. Heavy in agriculture, construction, and hospitality. They're paying taxes, they're raising families here, and they're unfortunately often stuck in a broken system with no clear path to citizenship. They're just told to show up here, there, and everywhere and pushed aside, and you know what it's like. They're raising families, building communities, and living in fear. The American dream, right? Here in Maryland 1 is shaking our community as a reminder that immigration isn't some faraway policy. It's here and it's us. Here's a crystal Pepsi clear moment for you. As your congresswoman, I will fight to protect everyone, as I've said, and this includes immigrants, undocumented, documented, and otherwise. I will push for humane, sensible reform. I will stand with our undocumented neighbors because our economy and our humanity depend on it. We're going to talk more about this in future episodes, and I'll continue to be listening to community members and immigrant families across the shore to hear what you need from legislation and action in DC. All right, in episode 1 of this podcast, I told you that the full platform of our campaign will be built based off listening to you, based on interactions with you, especially during this listening tour. I also told you that I do have what I call my big 3, healthcare, education, and the cost of living, which I refer to as economic justice. Through the first 2 episodes, we tapped oh so gently into healthcare and education. So this week, let's tap into economic justice and the cost costs of living, which encompasses a lot. As with the other two, I'll introduce it briefly, and as the months go on, we'll go deeper into each individual issue within each of the big three, all right? It costs so much to live, and to have just the basics is hard. Yes, Maryland has raised the minimum wage, and that's great, but it's just a start. But here's what folks in Maryland 1 know all too well, right? A minimum wage doesn't mean that it's a living wage. Gas is high, rent is wild, groceries getting worse. And while you're stretching every dollar, the corporations posting billion-dollar profits and getting billion-dollar and million-dollar bonuses are offering crumbs. BT dubs. Price gouging has been an incredible issue post-lockdown. You may have missed it a year ago while journalists were telling you that President Joe Biden was old, but a Kroger executive, Andy Groff, testified that Kroger raised prices on milk and eggs above the rate of inflation. This practice was to maximize profits during a time when inflation was going to happen anyway. So while CNN was focusing on the price of eggs being a fault of the last administration, there's proof that it wasn't fully inflation. It was price gouging. The Kroger executive was under oath admitting to all of this because they wanted the merger to happen with West Coast grocer Albertsons, and the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, didn't want to have another monopoly out there, especially with admittedly dishonest corporations, when Americans are hurting. And you can say, well, Rand, that was Kroger. We don't have one here. And that would be true. There's no Kroger here. But also, they're just the ones that happen to admit it because they were under oath. You don't get corporations bragging about major profits during a time of lockdown without some dirty work, right? Like firing people, not paying living wages to employees, but somehow managing million-dollar bonuses to CEOs. Weird. With price gouging, their thought was, hey, people need to eat. Right? And the government gave them stimulus checks and child tax credits, and we want that money, so boom, $7 for a dozen of eggs. Yeah. Instead of putting ire towards corporations, you were told it wasn't their fault, and punishing price gouging was unfair to businesses. Never mind you as the consumer. Nope. This wasn't just the storyline at Fox News, though. This was the storyline for CNN, MSNBC, and more, and we have to start being honest with regular Americans like you and I. Under the Biden-Harris administration, the IRS was getting back taxes from billionaires on the low. They owed, and the admin was showing up asking for the money and actually getting it. Starting to make sense why people like Musk and Bezos didn't like that. Yeah, so they started purchasing media outlets like the Washington Post and the other Republicans running for office. Yeah, slowly clicking together, right? They have the money to pay taxes, yet they're paying less than you and I. And in a lot of cases, that means $0.00 and getting kickbacks from the government. And that is because of the, quote, tax cuts signed into law back in 2017 by Tupe Fiasco. They were tax cuts for the rich and wealthy, not ordinary Americans who already don't have a living wage. Now, those famous tax cuts were due to expire this year, and both Biden and Harris had plans to make sure the script was flipped on millionaires and billionaires so that they would pay their fair share in back and current taxes, and you and I wouldn't be subjected to the pain of cutting larger checks to the government than people with seemingly unlimited funds. And if you didn't quite understand that before, I get it. I got you. Everything was meant to be broadcast to you to make it look like it was a good thing for you as someone who works their butt off all day long. Just the phrase tax cut was used to manipulate you. Meanwhile, the child tax credits of 2021 helped regular folks and pulled more children out of poverty than ever before, cutting child poverty in half. And that's a good thing. But somehow, the storyline was that these were dangerous and evil. Can you imagine telling people with a straight face that cutting child poverty in half is a horrible thing? Can you imagine getting that out of your mouth and just saying, well, we're saving lives and that's not something we should do? From the crowd that calls themselves pro-life? What is going on? What they wanted you to believe is that these tax credits were being pulled out of the sky and that it was ruining our economy, but it was doing the opposite. It was putting money back into our economy. The reason why they worked was that they were the normal credits applied to tax returns in the winter. They were just given out monthly to families in real time instead of just a lump sum at once or eaten up by back taxes or anything. This is what led to much needed help and resources for families in America. Anyway, we'll get into that and how messages have been used against us in harmful rhetoric much later, because I'm totally down to break all this up for you. What I want to let you know is that I'm there for you to apply federal pressure on employers to provide adequate paid time off, parental leave, and educational benefits. We need remote work options to ease the cost of commuting. We need support for working parents, for single caregivers, and for people who simply want to live with dignity. Real quick about housing, though. In Maryland, one counties, I've heard story after story of folks unable to find anything affordable. Section 8 lists are closed. Renters are getting scammed by slumlords who care more about TikTok hustle culture than human beings. We not only need more housing, but we need quality housing for everyone. And we need to weed out profiteers abusing federal subsidies. I believe we need oversight, local partnerships, and a federal incentive program that rewards landlords who put people first. This is where empathy and economic justice meet. If you've been priced out, pushed out, or left out, I see you, I hear you, I've been there, and I'm ready to fight for you. And I'm running to fight for you. You're still hanging with me, and I love it. Thank you so much. I know that I give you information, but it's important to combat the misinformation that's coming at us every single day. And that's the way we make things better, brighter for Maryland One and throughout the entire country. I'm for real about this empathy thing, y'all. We're bringing it back to DC, and we are rebuilding our community together. So it's not just a party line thing. It's let's get the actual information out. And I commit myself to making sure I weed through the BS for you. I promise you this. This weekend, I took my boys to the center of Salisbury for the first time. They've, of course, been to Chuck E. Cheese before, but, it's funny to call it Center of Salisbury. I'm an elder millennial, so elder millennials and Gen Xers are probably still calling it the new mall, right? We'll forever call it the new mall, but it made me sad to be there, It felt like watching the old mall deteriorate. You can remember from the old mall, like right in the center and the orange Julius and like the brick a little bit. And when the new mall came, it was so bright and like the white tile and marble on the floor and the light coming in right in the center of Salisbury, and the anchor stores like Hex and JCPenney and Sears. It was just big and new. And walking through it, it was like not. It wasn't big. It wasn't bright. It was just empty storefronts everywhere you went, like not even community hubs, some small businesses. There's not a gathering space per se, the food court's there, but it was just a ghost. Like it felt like the ghost of what it was. And I'm thinking, hey, yo, what are we doing? Also, what is going to happen? What can we do to make business ownership possible for everyday folks? Because what you have going on is all these big box stores and chains, they move in with all sorts of help because they're a corporation and move out when they feel like, I'm not getting enough profit. And then they leave just skeletons around. But in Maryland One right now, if you want to open a business like a dog grooming place or a daycare, a bakery, good luck. I imagine the rents are super high there and funding's hard to find and workers are even harder to keep. It's just not easy for the little guy. And then let's be so for real. If you're a Black business owner, it's even harder, especially without a solid association to back you, provide support, and fight with you as you need it. So I want to hear from you. What's the block for your small business? What do you need from me? I think we need small business associations that actually work, especially for underrepresented entrepreneurs. We need grants, not just loans. We need to rethink commercial zoning and support for walkable commerce, mixed-use buildings, and mobile startups. And I'm not talking about, the venture capitalist bros that build up, identical businesses and then just take them down because, they make more money selling them. We really need to put community at the center of commerce again. Whether that means we go outdoors, we change mall culture in Maryland 1, not just Salisbury alone, right? So again, I'm ready to hear from you. What's your small business story in Maryland 1? Are you seeing the same empty shops, the hiring struggles, the gaps in access? Go to randyformd.com and email me from there. Text me at 410-410-2619 or send a DM on any of my socials at randyformd, and I'll be reading every message. I really want your input on how easy, how hard it is, how tough it is to be a small business here and what you need federally. Ready to tap into Veterans Affairs? I think it's a big one for a lot of us, right? I don't know too many people that aren't associated with the military in some way, shape, or form, whether it's actually themselves being in the military, it's family, by marriage, their best friends, or even if you've dated from a few of the branches because, same, we are tied to the armed forces unlike ever before, honestly. And for some reason, there are folks that still feel like politically, they're the only ones who are able to claim the military, even though the military works for all of us as citizens. Really strange, really weird, and we're going to flip the script on all that. In Maryland 1, we're hop, skip, and jump away from Annapolis, so of course we're all tied to the military in some way, shape, or form. For me, it's been family who have fought in most of the wars this country has had in various branches. My best friend in the world is a Navy vet, and yes, I may have dabbled into dating into a few of the branches, except for the Marines and the Coast Guard, and I don't understand why that. Anyway, I digress. It's odd to see the rhetoric of how people support and love the military juxtaposed with how veterans are treated once the uniform comes off. The care should not stop when the tours end. And yet, in this district, we have veterans waiting months for basic care, fighting through red tape, struggling with homelessness, addiction, and untreated PTSD. What's worse, our current congressman, who is a vet himself, Andy Harris, talks big about supporting the troops and being a vet. But when it's time to vote on bills that actually help veterans, he's missing in action. Or he's voting no. Mental health funding? No. Housing vouchers? No. Suicide prevention? Nope. I will never treat veterans like a photo op. I will work every day to ensure y'all get the healthcare, mental health support, education, housing, and community resources that you've earned. And if you're a veteran in Maryland 1 and want to talk about what's missing, please, I am available to you for real. I'm here to put in the work, and I know. People have given you empty promises before. I don't make promises that I don't intend to keep. That's my word. And I've seen my bestie go through enough. And all of that inspires me to do more work for you. And that bestie I was just talking about, you better believe he's holding me accountable. Not by force, but, I need it, right? It's not just that I want to hear you. I want to understand where you're coming from and how you think I'm utilized best to work for you. In our campaign, we're not leaving anyone behind. I keep repeating that because I mean it. We don't want you missing appointments because of the lack of staffing at VA hospitals because of a bill that Andy Harris signed on to, or because someone has told you, nah, you got to choose a different therapist after you finally got one that you were comfortable with. That's unfair. I got you. We all got you. All of us, for all of us. Man, I promised you that I would always do a recap of the previous week that you missed out on, and then jump into what's going on this coming week. We kicked off this week really horribly thanks to Xfinity being out all day on Monday, but that's okay. Things happen, lifes, and that's what happened last week. I really believe in our campaign. I really believe that what we need to make lives better here on Maryland One, the different lives that are here, is to rebuild our community, right? Bring back empathy to DC and legislation. And in order to do that, I'm doing this full time, and I'm also a mom full time. So life has a way of lifing sometimes. And there will be moments where it's just, you know what? Until I get a staff, you guys are going to get a really fun post or a playlist from me. But I am committed to you and doing all the research and doing all the work, the physical and otherwise, to make sure Andy Harris loses his job to me next year. I promise you that, because he doesn't care. Even when he loses his job, he's still set. He's a doctor. He's a vet. He's lined his pockets from Big Daddy and other sources. He's good regardless. So he's not going to put in the effort. He doesn't care about you, nor does he care about me, but I care about you, and I care about what those of us in this district are going through, all 11 counties, all 131 cities and towns in Maryland One. All right. So I'm committed to you, and I want you to know that fully. All right. Lock into our socials at Randi4MD on everything. I think Blue Sky is at Randi4MD.com. The website is Randi4MD.com. This week, we got a What's Going On Wednesday, where we take a look at the last jobs report and the little bit of drama that surrounded that, because it's a big deal. And those numbers are huge, and not in a good way. All right. Thursday, we're going to do a community spotlight. Friday, you'll do another Meet Randy session where you get to learn a little bit more about me. Then next Tuesday, a week from today, I'll be with the Dorchester County Democratic Central Committee in Cambridge from 5 to 6. You can join us in person or on Zoom. The link is in the show notes on this app right here. Then on Wednesday, August 13th, it's time. I'll officially drop the full schedule for our listening tour. No committees, no gatekeeping, just you and I talking, learning, and building this campaign and rebuilding our community together. That doesn't mean I don't like the committees. You can always invite me. I will be there. It's just you get a chance to get everything unfiltered, like I said. No formalities or anything. We're just going to be real, right? We win with empathy, y'all. We win when we put effort into rebuilding this community, when we start leading and following all of us for all of us. What a ride to get this third episode to you. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for locking in and sharing. And I also want you to make sure you return back, right? Go ahead and follow and subscribe, because next week we talk a little bit more about jobs, and also we get more into the environment. I know y'all been waiting for this, and some other good things. Trust me, I'm getting to the issue that you want. I promise you. It's just slow and steady. I could be sitting here talking for 5 hours straight, and I would not have talked enough, I'm telling you. So we're making our way to our 5,000 goal by the end of August, and I believe we can get there with your help. Remember, this campaign is ours. It's running solely on you and I and our contributions, donations, and cash. There's no corporation behind me. There's no PAC behind me. There aren't rich family members or siblings or dead members sliding me cash under the table. Nah, that's not me. That's not us. This is about us, and I appreciate every cent that you've already contributed and everything you're going to give in the future. So consider giving that $26 for change in 26. Consider $76 or $106 or $260 or $2,600. That donation right now at Randi4MD.com. Consider doing a recurring donation. That would be great as well. And as always, the spirit of transparency. Every contribution helps us reach voters who've been ignored and sidelined for far too long. It powers our listening tour and other events every step of the way to defeating Andy Harris next year, as we need our community to grow and thrive. Let's keep building this people-powered campaign. This is what this is, y'all. Go to randyformd.com. That's RANDIFORMD.com to donate, or click the link in the show notes to make a pledge today. And if you're hosting a meeting, if you're throwing something on the grill at a cookout, or just want to introduce me to your slice of our community in Maryland 1, invite me. Hit me up at randyformd.com. DM me on socials at randyformd. Or again, I got a text line for you, 410-410-2619. 410-410-2619. I'll come hang out and listen to everything everyone has to say. I promise you, I'll always be showing up for you. Let's remind DC what empathy looks like by rebuilding our communities here at home. Be and stay true to yourself, and be the change this world needs. And hey, be the change in 26 by donating $26 to our campaign at randyformd.com.